Hey guys, my name's Crystal Kenny, and I'm in love with creating. All things artistic and imagination involved. I'm an American girl who chased her creative dreams all the way to Paris, France, making a living using photography. This podcast takes you inside the stories of all the artsy folks I've met along the way and gives you that extra push to discover your creative gifts. The desire to create is deeply inside each and every one of us, and I give you the tools and inspiration to find a new way of living a more creative life. This is La Vie Creative, the podcast. Today on the show, I interview Kristin Sanders. We talk about social media and how it affects creativity on a daily basis. So welcome to the show, Kristin. How are you doing today?
Hi, Crystal. Thanks for having me. I'm doing well. How are you?
I know we've kind of met in passing. This creative group in Paris is quite vast and there's always things happening. So we were in the same room, but I didn't actually get to talk to you. So it's great to get to know your work today.
Yeah, it's really nice to meet you as well. And it's an honor to be on your podcast.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I want to go back to the beginning. Like, what brought you to Paris? Where are you from? You're originally from California, but how long have you been here for?
Yeah, I'm from California. I'm from the central coast of California, Santa Maria, which is in Santa Barbara County. And I spent the last 15 years living in New Orleans. But around 2017, 18, I became a digital nomad. So nice. I would travel and go work. Well, I guess actually it all started when I got a 3-month poetry residency here in Paris. The residency program is called Trelex, and it's very small, and it was a wonderful experience. And then after that, I was traveling. I came back to France, but I went to Marseille for a couple months. I bounced around. I would just do Airbnbs for months at a time. And so I was working online.
That's so smart. So many people are dreaming of living that digital nomad life. And what can you say about it? Like, do you enjoy it? Or what's the good and bad about being a digital nomad?
Well, gosh, I have so much to say about it that I've been working on a novel for many years, trying to say what I have to say about it. But, so it was a really wonderful experience. It actually started with an ex-boyfriend. He and I went to Colombia, and we were going to travel together and be digital nomads. And then we broke up about 3 weeks in. So that was kind of a great thing because then I got to actually go back to my parents' house, and I was like in my early 30s, and I had to lick my wounds and mend my broken heart. Yeah. And then I got to figure out how to do it on my own for myself instead of kind of just tagging along on his journey. And I began teaching at an online university, which was really crucial. It was originally called Ashford University, but now it's called now it's been bought by the University of Arizona. I still teach there. And I started doing more freelance copywriting, which was a really big component of how I managed to become a digital nomad. And then, the traveling around, it was actually getting harder and getting pretty exhausting. And so I moved back to New Orleans in 2019, which was good timing because then during the pandemic, I had a home base. I had an apartment for the first time in 3 years.
It's something a lot of people don't realize how exhausting it can be to travel constantly as a digital nomad.
Yeah. I think it's nice to have a home base, whether it's in another country as an expat or in your own country, and then do long-term travel. Like that's what I'm into now, is if you could go for a month or two and really get to know the place.
Yeah. And like you said, have that home base to come home to, because I think it sounds like dreamy, just being on the road. But like you said, we need a home. We need somewhere to put our stuff, to know we can go back to.
and just kind of
Yes,
relax.
totally. And especially during the pandemic. I don't know how. Some people kept traveling during the pandemic, but I don't know how they did that.
Yeah, definitely, especially with all the regulations and closures, and
Yes.
it was tough. So now you also are a poet. So would you say like the copywriting is like the job and the poetry is
fun? Exactly. The copywriting, freelance copywriting is the job, and then I write poetry. I have one book of poetry out in the world. It's called Cuntry, but without the O.
Yeah, what's
it's about feminism, sexuality, gender, porn, and country music.
Wow, that's a lot going on in there.
I'm sort of always interested in writing about sexuality, desire, the objectification of women or empowerment of women. And so I was looking at that time, I was really fascinated by how women were depicted in the country songs that I had grown up with in the 90s.
Yeah. And how were they? Like, what do you feel about that? Like, were women objectified? Is things better now? How do you feel about the whole movement?
Well, that's a good question. Do you like country music?
I love country music. I'm a total 90s country girl. I grew up in Maryland.
Cool. Okay, well then I think, that's great to know. Yes, well, me too. I grew up with like Garth Brooks, Reba McEntire. Yes, and the Dixie Chicks. And I actually, so my uncle is a country songwriter. He's very successful. He's in the Country Songwriters Hall of Fame, and he won a Grammy for I Hope You Dance.
Oh, wow, that's so cool. So you're like really in the world of country music.
So I went there for 1 year when I was 29, 30, and I wanted to write country music because I thought, oh, this is going to work. This is great. This is poetry that can make money. But I found it really formulaic, and it's pretty collaborative. You co-write in groups of 2 or 3, but it just didn't really speak to my soul the way that I thought it would. And so I left, but then I wrote country instead. And I wanted to like bring in that era of feminist country music, which in fact, I think it was more feminist in the 90s.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. Like all these women were kind of, being like, I'm sexy, I'm a woman, and talking about, I mean, that's why like the Dixie Chicks got cancel culture before it was cancel culture, because they started talking about politics and things like that. So I feel that we're more evolved, at least in the country music scene.
And Shania Twain. But there was also, there also was always, like, I don't know if you were ever watching the music videos, but it was always like, the big hair and big boobs and short cut off shorts, like that objectification that I think, and kind of some of the songs are like, from the male perspective, were always and still tend to be like, hey, get in my truck. I have beer. We're going to the river and you're gonna like it. That had a big impact.
So what do you hope to do with the book? Do you hope for people to look at things from a different perspective, to wake up in some ways?
No, none of that. I don't know. Well, I published it in 2017. So it's, I really like it. I'm really proud of it. It feels very much like my young 20s self encapsulated in a book. And I think that it will resonate with other people like you and me who grew up with these songs and this messaging. But no, almost as soon as I published it, I became more interested in writing prose because I felt like I hadn't really conveyed any clear message, and now I needed to write about it, like to keep writing in a way.
Yeah. And for our listeners who don't know what prose are, can you explain to them? Like,
okay, yeah. So there's poetry and there's prose. And so poetry tends to be lineated with short lines, like traditional verse. And then prose is all other writing, like novels, essays, things like that. That's when I started working on my novel. I write essays and book reviews and things like that. Like what I love about poetry is that there's a lot of space for interpretation, but with prose, there's more of an ability to actually get your point across.
Yeah, you can explain more, you can go into more depth. And so what are you currently working on?
I'm working on this novel, and then I have a second book of poetry that I'm sending out to small presses in the US. And I'm actually doing a lot of client work right now. So in my copywriting, I tried to figure out, because I have a master's degree and an MFA in poetry, and I tried to figure out how to incorporate poetry into copywriting. And so I do a lot of brand voice development for small brands. And what I'm essentially doing is trying to figure out how the brand speaks, and sometimes how they could incorporate a more poetic voice or tone into their brand language.
I feel like that's something really different, because usually, like, especially marketing, things like that, it's like very straightforward, to the point, and you could make it more song-like, more fun with the poetry.
And I think a lot of the small brands today have to write so much, they have to write captions for Instagram, and it gets boring after a while for them to keep doing that. So I'm usually in the background trying to think of creative ways for them to keep saying what they have to say.
Yeah, to make it a little different and more interesting, because I think we're all getting a little fatigued of social media, of Instagram. I mean, many people have told me they're taking breaks, or, they're just not even looking at it anymore. And it's like, how do we keep people interested, and how do we even make it good for people? Because it can be like kind of bad in a lot of ways as well. There's a double-edged sword for sure.
Yeah. I think that social media is one of the biggest obstacles that I have when it comes to my own creativity, just because I spend so much time, I lose so much time to Instagram and Twitter. Yeah.
It's probably a big part of your job as an artist and as someone working, because you have to promote yourself, you have to promote your work, and it's constantly creating content.
Yeah, but I recently, so there's a creative husband and wife duo here in Paris, Augusta Sagnelli and her husband Samuel. They they're good friends of mine, and I finally, after months of them encouraging me to do it, started a Substack. Yeah.
Nice.
So I think that's a cool way to generate community and readership as a writer without wasting your time on scrolling. Yeah.
And the people that want to read or want to get to know new writers know about Substack. Can you explain a little bit about what it is?
Yeah, so Substack is just a newsletter service. I think of it kind of like a blog that gets mailed to your inbox. So people sign up, and there's an option for people to sign up for either a free version of a writer's newsletter or a paid version if you want. Some people have like behind the scenes or behind the paywall information that you can access by paying. Like I follow a lot of agents who have a Substack, and if you pay money, you get to read their more revealing, like, okay, here's what an agent has to say about XYZ.
Yeah, no, it's a great setup, especially for writers, especially for people looking for new and interesting content to read other than just your regular news sources. So I love it. Samuel actually told me about it when we recorded our podcast together. His just came out, and it's definitely
his is great. Yeah, his is really nice, and Augusta's is really nice. She does writing and photography, and and one of my ideas was to write a little bit more about my experiences as a digital nomad and my experience now as an expat in Paris and how I made it happen, which also encompasses how I make money through freelance writing.
Yeah, because I think, like we talked about earlier, a lot of people are dreaming of that. They want to move to Paris. They want to travel. They want to make money online. So, you're living the dream. And so, in your opinion, what makes a good poem?
Oh, wow. That's a really great question. Well, I guess I am particularly drawn to poems that use something very specific to convey a universal message. So even though it has the speaker's narrative or perspective and details, it's when I read it, I feel like I've had that experience also, or I can picture what that speaker's going through. So I guess that's kind of in the style of confessional poetry, which was mostly written or, initially written by women like Anne Sexton and Sylvia Plath, where they just talked about their turmoil and their problems. But those poems are so powerful and timeless.
Yeah. And when you can put yourself in their shoes, I can find like empathy and, I like that. Yeah. So a poem that can like make you feel kind of like, reading a book or something like that, where you can put yourself in the character's shoes and feel what they were going through.
Exactly. I've taught a lot of creative writing classes, specifically at Loyola University in New Orleans. And back then when I was teaching the creative writing classes and teaching poetry and something that young students and new poets will often do is only write in the abstract, like using big abstract words, and they're trying to talk about a feeling, and so it's never really that powerful, and their poetry seems like beginner work because they're too scared to actually be specific and personal.
Yeah. They feel like they have to be more artistic or more random about things instead of just like getting down to the point.
And they're just saying words without having, I don't know, I guess it's hard to get the emotion in there through specificity and details and a narrative, I think, too.
What is the role of the writer in today's world? What do you think we should be doing with our writing? What is the hope for you with your writing? Do you want to influence people? Do you want something to come from writing?
That's a hard question. I feel that good art holds up a mirror to who we are as a society. And so my favorite books and writers are those who were not afraid to hold that mirror up and to be honest. Like, I really like a lot of French women writers, Marguerite Duras and Colette and Anaïs Nin, Leila Slimani, and Virginie Despentes. And I mean, when we look at the older women writers like Anaïs Nin, it's so interesting to see, because she was bold and brave and she wrote about sexuality and she wrote erotica in her time, then we can see what was taboo back then and how people were engaging back then. And I really like seeing how not much has changed, in the society, in terms of society and what we expect from each other and what we put up with. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now there's, like I just read a really great novel that's coming out in a couple weeks called Aesthetica by Ali Rowbottom. And she's writing about this social media question and a young woman who becomes an Instagram influencer and gets a bunch of work done. And so it was a good novel because she's looking very honestly at what is happening right now. And I don't know, I feel like in a way it's a gift to the rest of us to be able to read that perspective and then to have it still in the world for decades to come.
About what was going on in today's society with social media. And do you think through social media and the internet, women are more empowered in today's society?
That is the eternal question. I don't know. That's kind of what I always want to think about and write about and talk about is objectification of women and how it holds us back in so many ways, but then also in a weird way can be empowering. And yeah,
because you look at like Cardi B's and all that, and they're like naked and have sex with me like this, and it's like, are they empowered, or how do you feel about that? Like, because women are more open to like dressing how they want to dress or talking about sex how they want to talk about sex, do you think that is what we actually want, or is that us trying to figure it out still just because we weren't allowed to for so long?
And body positivity too. Is a cool movement kind of stemming from social media. But then social media, it's really women that have so bought into it and are being advertised to. We're being advertised to by these companies on these platforms. And when I think about people who don't do social media, it's usually men.
Yeah. It's like, once again, are we the ones being abused through advertising and things like that?
Yeah.
It's just another form of advertising. It's the new newspaper. It's the new billboard.
It is. And then we just stare at it all day. I remember in my 20s, I had a period where I just decided I didn't want to look at magazines anymore. I didn't want to look at fashion magazines and the models and the things that I was being sold. And so I really stopped. And now it's like social media is a magazine and a TV all rolled into one in your pocket that you can reach for at all times. And I no longer have the willpower to not look.
Yeah.
Or to...
It's become a part of our everyday lives, even more so than TV and magazines.
Yeah, and then also to not participate. I mean, this question just really, I struggle with it so much. You know, anyone could take a break, a year break, a couple of months, or just walk away entirely. But then it feels like you're not really participating in public life when you're not being public.
Yeah, especially in the kind of work we do, you know, we have to be our own advertisers and connect. And it's like, where's the space that's healthy for that, but we can also promote ourselves?
Exactly. I don't know. I don't know the answer, but I think, I mean, I hope that it changes at a certain point in the future.
I know in my own personal experience, Instagram has been good because of women like Celeste Barber and other comedians who are kind of making fun of basically Celeste Barber. She's an Australian comedian, and she'll show like an ad from like Cindy Crawford being super hot selling cheeseburgers, and then she'll recreate it as just like an everyday sized woman, making fun of it, being like, look, this is what we really look like. We're not all like that. And that's okay. And like, that's kind of, for me, I think that's really empowering to see more women who look like me, like just kind of making fun of all these ads that have been shoved down our throat for so long.
Yeah. I know the woman that you're speaking about, but I didn't know her name. Yeah. She's brilliant.
Yeah. And I think, even though that's not like what you see more of, you are seeing some of that now on social media where, women are kind of fighting back, being like, this is ridiculous, like let's just like look at how unreal this is.
Yes. Yeah, I actually recently published an essay in the Columbia Journal online about how about the connection between Instagram and the digital nomad. So yeah, I feel like I'm exploring this topic. I don't have any clear answers, but I feel like am I a digital nomad because I really wanted to be, and I wanted this, and I wanted to come to France, or because Instagram and other people doing it made me want to do it,
Yeah, it's hard to know what our own wants are anymore when we constantly have like FOMO or fear of missing out, or we're constantly watching other people's lives saying, oh, it looks so great. But at the end of the day, like social media is a highlight reel of everybody's life.
Yes,
it's not real
that's
life.
True.
And I think we'll be like discovering the repercussions of that for decades to come. It's kind of like, you remember lead paint, and it's like, well, they didn't know that was killing them.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's dark. I'm worried too about the young people that are just growing up with social media and with their lives online. I mean, at least I'm 38, so at least I was able to grow up with boredom and quiet, and I was super creative as a kid, and I don't know, I just worry about what's going to happen to creativity.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I'm 36, and I'm like, there was a time where I didn't look at this stuff, it didn't exist, and like I think that was a good thing.
Yes, exactly.
And people are born into it now. They don't know any different. And then you watch these documentaries where people design Pinterest or Instagram or whatever, and they're like, I don't let my kids look at that. It's like, they know there's bad stuff going on. So it's only a little more time before we know, we hear more about all of this. But coming back to your work, like, what are you most excited about for your future work?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I'm working on this novel. I would like to have an agent. That's my dream for the next step. And then I'm sending out my poetry book, which is about objectification and all that. It's called The Book of No Images. And I'm sending that out to small presses. And I feel that I cannot, even though I just started a Substack, which is short essay writing, I can't start a new project until I dedicate more time to the current two, because I've really, that's the dance, is finding time for my creative pursuits, which don't make money. And so it's hard to schedule that into my day or my week. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because at the end of the day, we got to pay our rent. I think that's a struggle for all artists. I always ask people on the podcast, like, what's the key to, living a more creative life? And one woman said, marry rich.
Oh, no. Well, actually, yeah. I get it. That's actually another project of mine from 2019, and then I launched it January 2020, right before the pandemic, is The Science of Women Getting Rich. And so it was this kind of feminist art project where I took a book from 1910, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles, and then I changed all the pronouns from male to female, and I changed all the god to goddess, and all the examples that he gave of wealthy men to wealthy women from that era. Yeah, and then I self-published it on Amazon, and I made a little website and an Instagram. And then with the pandemic, I kind of felt like a little less, I just felt kind of like, oh, this isn't what I want to be focusing on right now. But now it's kind of coming back around, and it's available as an ebook. I always think about making it a paperback version, and mostly what came from doing that project was a lot of inner work about money and valuing myself. And I read a bunch of other books, like the business side of creativity. And I hired a business coach, and wow. I was really, this was kind of the project in the year 2019 that it all kind of came together for me. I was doing a lot of affirmations. So I started to figure out how to make money as a freelancer. And
what did you figure out? Did you figure out that having a business coach, focusing on the marketing part, that all did help?
Totally. Yeah. 2019 was my best year financially. Yeah. And then with the pandemic, I backslid. I got nervous about charging, high rates and stuff like that. But so it's always a process that I'm working on, but I'm hyper independent. And so it's something like making money and making it as a freelancer is something that I want to focus on for myself and want to help other women do as well. So that's like my side project.
Yeah. Nice. No, I think that's a great project. And I think a lot of us, especially women, need help with that because we're not really good at self-promotion or asking what we're worth. Oh. And where can listeners connect with you online and learn more about your work?
So my website is Kristin Diane Sanders with a K and 2 I's, Kristin. And then my Instagram is at Kristin Diane Sanders, and my Substack is Kristin Diane Sanders .substack.com. And then the scienceofwomengettingrich.com is my other project.
Oh, I love that. And we'll share all that in the show notes so you guys can click on that and connect with Kristin. I love all these projects. So interesting. And I look forward to connecting again.
Yeah, thank you so much, Crystal. I really appreciate you having me on here, and it's been wonderful.
Thanks so much for tuning in to La Vie Creative. You can find more information on MissParisPhoto.com. And if you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word for all my creative guests. We have the power to help them to keep doing what they love. See you next time.